The Marlins are embracing a new style of baseball that they haven't played over the last few years. And so far, it's been working out for them.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. Go hit me up on X at Jeremiah Geiger2. And thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Make sure you subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment in the comment section. And today's show is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. And if you're watching on YouTube, you've seen him already. The legend, the UK GOAT, Peter Pratt, is back in the house. Peter, welcome in. How are you doing?
Let's go. Great to be back. I'm absolutely pumped for this, mate. And I must say, just firstly, you nailed that intro ad read and the intro generally, mate. You are in the groove, mate. Locked On Marlins is in awesome hands, mate. So I'm doing well. I'm enjoying baseball. I'm enjoying watching it. I'm enjoying playing plenty of tennis as well still at the moment. So tennis vibes remain high here in the Pratt household, but everything's great, mate. And I'm excited to talk about a team that's winning.
Yeah.
Happy days.
It's happy. It's a great time. I'm so appreciative for you joining the podcast. Absolute legend. Try to live up to you. And, you know, you're the one that got me hooked on Locked On Marlins, and it's great to host it now and have you back on the show and talk some Marlins baseball. And the Marlins right now are fun. They're 8-7. They're winning. They have a tough week this week. I talked about that in yesterday's pod, but you know what? We're going to ride the wave until the wave crashes out on shore. You know, the Marlins are a fun baseball team, and the way they're doing it so far, Peter, is completely different from 24 or 23. This is a new, innovative baseball team, and they emphasize different facets of the game that maybe in the previous years they didn't as much. Timely hitting, the defense, especially in the outfield, has been much improved, and the way they handle the bullpen certainly is a new age mantra. Any thoughts on the way the Marlins are playing ball right now?
Yeah, there's definitely some obvious differences from previous years. It's definitely a lot better than last year. So, like, that was year one of Bendix ball. It was the teardown. And, you know, we're now into the rebuild phase. And, you know, there's obviously a lot of new minds around just the organization in general, new manager, new staff, everything. Like, some of the players are still the same. Obviously, some are new. But there's definitely some differences. I think what we've seen, like the two standouts for me, you talked about the outfield cluster and the outfield defense, to your point. Boy, oh boy, there has been...
Excellent.
How many highlight reel grabs has there been in that outfield? It has been insane. The top 5, you know, defensive plays of the year, when we get to the end of the year, are all going to be Marlins outfielders making the grabs in the first 2 weeks. Unreal outfield defense. So that was, I mean, I didn't expect that, to be honest with you. So that's been impressive. But looking at the outfields, just kind of lean into them offensively, I was expecting way more like platoon matchup type stuff going on. And I think the thing that's really struck me has been like, you know, Stowers has been out there pretty much every day. Conine's out there every day. Hill seems to be out there every day at the moment. It feels like Dane's maybe dinged up or something, because after he face planted the wall, we kind of haven't seen much of Dane. But there's been less platooning. And the guys have just gotten opportunities, and it's helping. Like, I've often felt that, like, this notion of platooning feels like it disrupts the rhythm. And I feel like the guys in the outfield are just being given an opportunity, just go out there and play every day. And we're seeing some results, really encouraging. On the pitching side, like you mentioned, the bullpen usage, the starting pitching usage, both of them stood out, right? 2 times through the order. That's the end.
Yep.
And then bullpen's in. And then there's been a few hiccups, it's fair to say, with the bullpen. Like, it'll evolve. You know, Calvin Fauché, for me, like the real standout of lack of performance. I predominantly, you know, watch his every outing. It's looked, you know, erratic, not that great, actually. We're kind of expecting Fauché to kind of be the lead of this group. Haven't really seen that yet. You know, maybe he's easing into it, but we've definitely seen shorter leashes for these starting pitchers. Bullpen's been asked to do more. And I think we're going to get into the merry-go-round. And as well, I mean, we have to say, the standout, the ace of the group, I know you've got Sandy listed in the rundown here, but the ace of the group, Max Meyer. boy, oh boy, he
yeah.
is the story in the rotation of this season. Max Meyer, I mean, for those that listened last year when I was hosting, I wrote him off. I thought this guy is not a starting pitcher. He's probably a decent bullpen arm. He's not a starting pitcher. This is a new Max Meyer, and boy, oh boy, he has been stunning. And I can eat every single word on every single show I put out in 2024. Max Meyer is a stud.
Well, it wasn't just you. There were a lot of people that felt that Max Meyer, even coming out of college, we're going to give him a shot at starter. But that slider is an elite pitch. He has a fastball, not much else to go with it. It screams closer. And after last season, it was move him to the pen. You know, we talked about Edward Cabrera possibly going to the pen. They still haven't done that. He's the epitome of fool's gold. Every time
He is.
you know, I try to get away, they draw you back in. Sopranos reference there. But Max Meyer has been awesome. He's been the best pitcher on the Marlins staff and the outfield. Stowers and Conine, you mentioned them. Before spring training, if you were to tell me, you know, Stowers and Griffin Conine are getting playing time every single day, I would be like, oh boy, like we have strikeouts for days. Yeah. We're going to have a sub 220 batting average for both of them. Maybe not Conine, but Stowers. You know, I had been really, I guess, concerned for his performance long term. They've completely flipped it around. Both those guys have proved, you know, we can hit. And not only can we hit every day, we can hit lefties. We don't need to be platooned. And so with Jesus Sanchez coming back into the fold, this outfield, when you think about Dane Myers as well, who I believe is an everyday player, even though he hasn't been getting everyday reps this season, I think that can be a strength of this team moving forward. They're still young. They got plenty of control, and they're only going to get better moving forward. The bullpen, Fauché, he gave up that home run against New York a week and a half ago. Hadn't given up a home run all of last season, if I'm not mistaken. I want to see more from him. I want to see more from Anthony Bender, because if the Marlins continue winning, it's going to be because of the bullpen. The bullpen is going to have to carry the load because, like you said, the starters, they're not giving you the distance you typically like to see. No. But if the team falls out of contention, that's where Bendix takes advantage of these trades. He's shown to be a very, very innovative in the trade market. He's going to trade players at times when you don't necessarily expect it, or get back a return that you say, who are these guys? Let me do a deep dive. The bullpen is a key part of that moving forward. So it's gonna be interesting to see.
No doubt. And I mean, we have to talk about, just speaking about innovative trades, like the main standout for me is this. I mean, this is the Bendix Ball highlight reel for me right now. You have a DFA'd Vidal Brujan, who, listen, we all watched Vidal Brujan play last year. The dude's not good.
He's not good at all.
He's not.
He's not a major leaguer.
He's not a major. No, he isn't. He isn't. No. He used to be a good prospect, but he's not a big league player at this point. He was DFA'd by the Marlins. Peter Bendix extravaganza. He goes and makes a move for Matt Mervis, plums Matt Mervis in. The next thing is you've got a dude that's hitting at Pete Alonso levels at this point for the Marlins. That is the epitome of Bendix Ball right there. That is it in a nutshell. If you can tell me what Bendix Ball is, show them that trade. And you just can't help but be impressed by Matt Mervis getting the opportunity. And I mean, he has been platooned a little bit actually, but when he's out there, I mean, that pinch hit blast on Sunday that, the Masters was on and it landed on the green. It was like an approach to a par 5. He absolutely drilled that one. It was awesome to see. I think soon, though, pitchers are going to work out with Mervis. You can't pitch down and in to him because that is the red hot zone. Like, he just wants to take them deep. So love to see that from Mervis. And listen, this Marlins team has been littered with fun storylines, guys overperforming our expectations. Maybe not Bendix's expectations, but our expectations predominantly have been exceeded. And that's been a fun thing to say.
It's been super fun. This team has been exciting to watch. And you look back last year, complete opposite. Matt Mervis, just to finish up on him, he was left for dead in Chicago. The Marlins picked him off the scrap heap, for nothing for Vidal Brujan, who Cubs fans are already out on. Like, he's not a part of their future. Mervis is hitting bombs. He's hitting it to the chop house in Atlanta. I got Braves fans saying, who is this guy? Well, it's Matt Mervis. Mashing Matt Mervis. Get to know the name. In the next segment, though, we're going to talk about the most famous Marlin of this team, Sandy Alcantara. He's off to a little bit of a slow start for his standards, and there's trade rumors surrounding the name Sandy Alcantara. But is it a guarantee that he goes? What do the Marlins do with him moving forward? That's coming up right after this. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Basketball and hockey playoffs are heating up, and there's no better way to turn your sports knowledge into real rewards than with PrizePicks. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy. With PrizePicks, you simply pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and you're in. You can even combine players across sports, basketball, hockey, and yes, baseball, some Marlins players if you want, for your chance to win up to 2,000 times your cash. That's a lot of money, so I suggest getting in on it right now. If you like basketball, take Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic. The playoffs are heating up. If you're a Heat fan, Miami Heat are in the play-in game. Maybe take a look at a couple of their players. It's easy to set up your lineup. It only takes 60 seconds max, and PrizePicks even runs cool promotions like Taco Tuesday, where they discount player projections up to 25% for even more value, and the payouts are fast, safe, and secure. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 off instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Back here with Peter Pratt, the former host from Locked On Marlins. It's great talking Marlins baseball with him. And if you're an everyday listener, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're new so you don't miss any future episodes. And we're talking Sandy Alcantara. It's going to be the storyline, Peter, for many months. Not just now, but as we get closer to the trade deadline. The name Sandy Alcantara is going to be on MLB Network. It's going to be on all the radio shows. What is the Marlins' plan with him? They have him for a couple more years. He's under control potentially for 3 years if they use that club option. And he's pitched a little shaky for his standards, especially last start. Wasn't getting a lot of strikeouts. He's shown some control issues. I'm not worried, though. I think Sandy Alcantara has shown what he can be, and when he's at his best, he's among the best pitchers in all of baseball. But what did the Marlins do with him? Peter, I'll open up the floor to you right now.
Oh, I think it's pretty clear what they are going to do. We'll wait and see when that happens, but I think we know the outcome. I think I saw Barry Jackson maybe talking about it recently to say, it's going to be more of a deadline-y type decision. Are the Marlins going to still be in it? Whatever it might be. I mean, I'd love for that to be a real world problem for Peter Bendix at the deadline, where the Marlins are hovering at 500. Sandy's pitching well. They feel like they're in it, and maybe they don't sell at that point. And so, I mean, that would be a great problem for us as the fans to have. It would be a tough one for Peter Bendix, I guess. But I think we all know how this ends. The question is when and what the return will look like. But I've already made my peace with that. Like, I know, I understand this business model. I understand this operating model. And I think we all do as fans. And I think when you take the emotion away and you take the names away, you have to acknowledge like what we're seeing now, where you've dismantled the team, you've pieced it together with league minimum dudes that are scrap heap guys, and frankly, they're way overperforming the previous cluster of dudes from 2024. So in Bendix, we have to trust. Could Sandy be an asset for the Marlins for the next couple of seasons? Yes, but they have got a ton of young arms ready to rock and roll. And with Sandy, and for teams that want to pay that type of money, and for a proven innings guy, there's so much value there. They can get a huge return back in prospect capital. They're going to do that, I think. And I think they're going to do it nearer the deadline now than, originally I was thinking maybe they do an Arias extravaganza, but if the team's bubbling along, then great. But it's interesting with Sandy, like what we've seen in terms of on the field. Opening day, I must say, Sandy to me looked all the way back, fully back for me. Like I was watching that game. At one point, like he just he put the foot down, he was motoring through, and then he had a little minor wobble, and maybe tiredness kicked in, nerves kicked in, whatever it might be. But I've already seen with my eyes, and I buy with my eyes, as you know. I'm fully convinced that Sandy Alcantara is like all the way back health-wise. And there's a bit of rust there. There's probably a little bit of like confidence stuff in there to rebuild. I think there's also stuff like lingering around this like innings limit aspect. Like Sandy doesn't like that. Sandy wants full go. He wants to be left alone, to be honest with you. On days that Sandy goes and pitches, no one's allowed to speak to Sandy. And frankly, he doesn't want to be spoke to on the mound either. Leave him pitch until he's done 120 and then see where he's at. That's basically what Sandy wants. And I do think this all like, is he on a innings limit? Is he on a pitch count? I think that probably factors in too, where he's probably frustrated by that. And then he maybe try to do too much. Because if Sandy's goal is, and his goal will be, I want to go complete game, shut out, that's his goal. And if he's only got 85 pitches to do it, he maybe tries to do a little bit too much, maybe. And then things start to go right. He's obviously got stuff happening off the field too in a positive way. So, having had 2 kids and know the impact of your sleep patterns when you have a newborn in the house, I can confirm they are disrupted for certain. So, like Sandy's got other stuff going on around the field. He's a pro's pro, no doubt about it. But performance-wise, I've seen an opening day that Sandy is all the way back. I think there's a few niggles about how he's being managed, and I don't think he likes it. I think the stuff off the field too that's going to impact him. But listen, Sandy is one of the best pitchers the Marlins organization has ever had. And he's got multiple years remaining on an under-market deal. The Marlins have got a great opportunity to move him. Again, add more to this farm. And then they've got a plethora of young dudes ready to rock and roll. And, they'll be allowed to go 2 times through the order, and they'll say thank you for that. And they're happy with that. But Sandy, he wants to go 4 times through the order for 0 runs. That's Sandy. And I don't think the two align at this point, to be honest with you.
Well, when you look at the Marlins' philosophy as a new analytically driven organization, they look at the Rays and they say, okay, the Rays pitch their starters twice through the order. That's it. Even in the biggest stages, the World Series, Blake Snell, 5 innings, he's gone. Even when he's pitching to an elite level. The Marlins, Peter Bendix, came from that era, that organization. And we saw it. The only pitcher to go into the 7th, happened one time, was Max Meyer. And that was because his pitch count was so low. He ended up getting taken out at 82 pitches. They don't like running their guys high pitch counts. I feel like Sandy, I'm with you. I think he is the exception to that rule. Maybe you do that with Cal Quantrill or Max Meyer, Edward Cabrera. That's fine. But Sandy, you let him go. You kind of just say, all right, here's the ball. Give us your best effort. And he does that. He takes his craft very seriously. You can see the emotion that he portrays after each start, whether it's a good start or a bad start. It seems to weigh on him if he doesn't have his best stuff or his best execution. And I look at the Marlins situation right now, and yes, it's exciting. I'm happy to be a Marlins fan right now. They have a couple big series coming up. It's exciting. They're competitive. They're playing in these games. They're winning some of these games, but it's a long season. Baseball is 162 games. And when I take a step back, I look at a team like the Washington Nationals last season. They were off to a hot start. They entered the deadline about 3-4 games around under 500, above 500, right around that, that breaking point for buyers or sellers. And you could have justified the Nationals going out and buying and adding to the roster. And they said, you know what? We're going to stick to our plan. We're going to trade away our young talent, not young talent, but our talent that can provide value and get value back. And that's what they did. The Nationals ended up fading down the stretch. It proved to be a good decision, maybe. And I could see a scenario in which Marlins fans are outraged because Sandy Alcantara gets traded. If the Marlins are hovering around 500, they continue to overperform. Like you said, I think it's a done deal. I think it's written in stone. Sandy will be traded at some point. It's just a matter of when. And it's a matter of the best fit because you can't settle for a Sandy trade. Well, I thought Peter Bendix settled for a Jesus Luzardo trade, and now Luzardo is one of the best pitchers in the National League. And it pains me seeing Luzardo performed so well. I'm happy for him, but he's on the Phillies now, and he's going to be a Philly for a long time. I don't want to see that happen with Sandy Alcantara, where I wonder, what if you had kept him, or what if you had waited to trade him? So take your time. This is a deal you just can't mess up.
I mean, it's a franchise-altering potential deal. I mean, it's one of the best players the organization has ever had.
Yeah.
You're going to move him with multiple years of control. It's a sliding doors type of deal for the Marlins. And, you know, with Bendix, we have to trust, you know, like that's all we can do at this point. I'm not a prospect guy. I never will be. And we'll wait to see what comes back. But I feel confident the return will be huge for Sandy. And there's going to be a lot of suitors for Sandy Alcantara. I think that's the thing. The only one concern just on Sandy is that just that second outing where it was like, hey, I was feeling tired or whatever. And I that's the first time I've ever heard Sandy say anything like that, ever, I think. And so that was a slight concern. I just get the sense maybe he's just trying to overdo it, trying to overpush the ticket a little bit. He wants to prove a point. He wants to announce to everyone, I'm back. But he's already back. He's on the mound, and he is back, and that's fine. And so that was the slight niggle. And that's the challenge for Bendix at this point. Like Luzardo last year, you've already mentioned. They left it a bit too late. He got hurt. Next thing is they wanted to move him at the deadline. They did, because that was the time to maximize the value. And they've ended up doing a deal in the summer. You know, I think they wanted to do a deal sooner than that. And it felt to me they had to take a bit of a ding on the price. I know a lot of people like Caba that came back as part of that, but that's the only risk with Sandy, right? Is if there's anything that happens physically and that takes him out of most of this season, it's a further ding on the value. So it's just where you run the risk, right, of how do you move him at the right time to get your value. You know, and it is health dependent with these pitchers, clearly. So very intrigued to see. But we have seen with Bendix, he'll pull the trigger at any moment. So it could happen tomorrow. You won't even see it coming. Or it could happen at the deadline. Wait to see. But I'm confident at least half of the league is talking to Bendix about Sandy regularly, in my opinion.
And the faith of the Marlins fans right now are in the hands of Peter Bendix. And they have been since they started this rebuild. I've been skeptical. I will make my voice known when Bendix does something I don't agree with. And when he does, I'm going to praise him. That's just how it is. I got to call it how it is. But with Peter Bendix and the Bendix ball philosophy, it needs more. It's not just Peter Bendix who's going to take the blame or take the credit if good things happen, because ownership is a big part of this. I'm going to talk about this ownership and why Bruce Sherman has to spend money at some point in the Peter Bendix era, coming up right after this. This show is also brought to you by Gametime. There's nothing better than catching an MLB game live. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, the smell of ballpark food. And if you're looking to go last minute, Gametime makes getting tickets easier than ever. With last minute deals, all-in pricing, and a lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Ticket prices drop as Gametime gets closer, meaning you can score an incredible deal. Gametime is the official ticketing partner of Locked On. And as the season continues and the baseball games roll on, if I'm looking to go to a game, I know I can count on them to help grab tickets that meet my needs. Gametime has unbeatable prices. They have a feature in which it filters out all the extra stuff. It just highlights the top discounts in the stadium. You can look at your seat before you buy it. So there's no surprises there. You pick your section, pick your seat, take a look, say this is what I'm going to see at the game. It's really easy. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Back here with Peter Pratt, former host from Locked On Marlins, and we are talking some Marlins baseball when it comes to competing in the long term, in the grand scheme of things, not just this year, but the years to follow. I can't help but feel that it's not only Peter Bendix who must be relied on. He needs help. The Marlins need help from their owner, Bruce Sherman, and that starts by opening up the wallet and spending some money on free agents or trades that you extend to supplement the core that Bendix is building in Miami?
Oh boy, this is a very tough topic for many reasons. My general view is that I think in the relative near term, Bruce Sherman will be forced to spend more. I think that is coming down the pipe. And what I mean by that is for revenue sharing related aspects or, whatever it might be, there's going to be a minimum investment that the Marlins need to make on the field. I think that's going to be forced upon Peter Bendix, Bruce Sherman, the Marlins, other similar organizations that benefit from the revenue sharing. Because, and I can understand the grievance from the other organizations, they're to have to divvy that money up to the Marlins, and then they don't, that doesn't equate to the on-field product. Their roster is, half the amount they get from, the revenue sharing. For me, I can see the grievance there for sure. So I think in the relative near term, that's what we're going to see. We're going to see a situation where clubs, to benefit from revenue sharing or just more generally, will have to spend a minimum amount on the roster. And we've seen it before. I just want to call this out, though. We've seen before the Marlins have invested in free agency in the Bruce Sherman era. The problem the Marlins have faced in this have been the market, the players, particularly the offensive guys. Miami is the last option that they want to take, fundamentally, because it's an empty ballpark that doesn't help you offensively in terms of the numbers. Like, no one wants to offensively play in Miami. So that's the challenge that the Marlins face. So then they go to, well, we have to overpay to try and get someone in, i.e. an Avisail Garcia. So I think the point I'm trying to make is just because you invest in free agents, there's no sure thing. And actually, for what I've seen with Marlins, in my time I followed the Marlins, I can barely think of a free agent they've signed that has actually delivered any value. To be honest with you, I struggle to think of any. So I'm more interested in retaining talent, and I think that's the bit. And I think that's where we're going to get to. We're not going to see probably the big splashy free agent moves from Bruce Sherman ever, because probably the dollar value doesn't return the analytical value, the on-field value, maybe. And most teams are looking for other organizations because it's a better fit for them. So I don't think we see that, but I think we start to see as the new core arrives, maybe the Marlins go down early extension mode. That seems to be where Major League Baseball is trending. We're seeing all sorts of young dudes getting early extensions, long-term extensions. And I think that's where the Marlins go. Were they going to try that with Yuri Perez? The sense is probably yes, they were a while ago. They maybe missed their window. Who knows? We'll see. But I think that's what we're going to see. Guys arrive. Guys get extended earlier, and that's where you're going to invest your dollars. I don't see it being so much in free agents, and frankly, I think that's probably the right move. As much as we clamor, the Marlins are never going to sign a Juan Soto, and there's actually no need. And actually, probably it's a poor investment over the lifespan of that contract, 500, 600, whatever million over 15 to 20 years. Juan Soto's not going to be a player he is now in 15 years' time. He's going to be a liability. He's probably going to be cut, to be honest with you, by that point. So, that's not what the Marlins need. That's not what fits the profile. I think Bruce Sherman will be forced to spend more, and I think what he's going to do is end up investing in his younger dudes that they've either drafted or they've traded for and developed, and that's going to be where they go. So I think you'd expect it to come up, but probably not in free agents generally. I don't know. What do you think?
I'm kind of on the same boat as you. I look at this team right now, and there's a few players that have blaring alarm signals going off over their heads saying, extend me. And I look at Agustin Ramirez. I see Yuri Perez. I see Connor Norby. The talent is there. And especially Agustin Ramirez, right? Because, yes, he hasn't made his debut, but that bat is going to play. I mean, he's hitting the ball 112 miles an hour seemingly every night. He's a hitter first, whether he sticks at catcher or not. And he's just 23, 24 years old. Connor Norby, third baseman, they've been very open about his role on the team and being a cornerstone player. Peter Bendix said, I think Norby can be an all-star. He has that all-star potential. Norby believes in himself. That, to me, makes sense to extend Connor Norby once he comes back. And then the wild card, I think, is Yuri Perez. Because Perez is somebody who hasn't gotten a lot of time on the major league field. He hasn't pitched a ton, but when he has, he's a superstar. I mean, he just oozes talent. And the Marlins have had a couple guys come through the last 10 years that remind me of Yuri Perez. Jose Fernandez and Sandy Alcantara. That level of pitcher Yuri Perez can be. Now, do they offer him a contract extension, and will Yuri even take that contract extension? Because a lot of players can say, all right, I appreciate it, but I'm going to test the waters in a few years and sign a mega deal like the Dodgers did with Yamamoto, 12-year, $300 million. I think Yuri Perez has that type of potential, being as young as he is. With free agency, they're, like you said, they're never going to be in the running for the Sotos of the world. It's just not going to happen. You know, it's literally impossible for Sherman to spend that money. The collective ownership is not in a financial place to do so. But what I think they can do, in addition to offering extensions and making an effort to retain the in-house talent, is sign guys who can give you 3 or 4 years under 50, 60 million. Avi Garcia was about the maximum contract I think Bruce Sherman's willing to go. And frankly, I think it scared him. After Garcia didn't work out, I think that contract scared him. And he said, I don't want a piece of this anymore. Let me sign Tim Anderson. And then that didn't work out. And then he said, whoa, I guess Cal Quantrill's the best I can do. And it was like, we're down to $3.5 million. It went from 53 to $5 million with TA and now $3.5 million. So the maximum contract I could ever see Sherman spending would be a 3 or 4 year deal. 3 years, $40 million. I look at the Mets with Clay Holmes. That was his deal. 3 years for 38. I think that's justifiable, and that's something that I can get behind and Sherman can get behind because it doesn't take a lot. When you're in a window, baseball is very, very linear. You're going to have years in which you're competitive and the door shuts. You got to wait a few more years if you're a small market team, and then it continues on. Marlins are entering the position to be in that competitive window, and that's when I think they sign 2 or 3 deals that supplement the value already on the roster. I think that's just how it has to be.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. That probably is the type of deal that you would, you supplement what you've got. Just to go back on Yuri, by the way, I do think it's a very interesting situation with him. He's missed a year. He's had his first Tommy John. Like, I think pre-Tommy John, Yuri's not having the discussion, to be honest with you, because the window's missed. He's now a little bit like, let's see what I can deliver on the field, and am I going to get this mega deal? We're now in a situation where he's missed a season with Tommy John. What happens if another one happens? All of a sudden, I think the dynamic shifted there for Yuri Perez, where he doesn't quite hold all of the cards that maybe he did. And so I think it'd be smart for the Marlins to get back around the table with Yuri Perez, if indeed they see him as part of the future. Everything that's come out about Yuri Perez from Bendix and the organization has been a big part of the future, untouchable, immovable, type of dude. So maybe it's a good time to get back around. And just the final thing on him, if we remember, and it feels like so long ago since we watched him pitch. Obviously, it's
in 2 years.
That's what I mean. It feels like a lifetime ago. The numbers were good. It was tantalizing. It was dazzling. There was a lot of big fly balls that didn't go out for Yuri Perez. I remember it specifically where there was a lot of loud contact that just stayed in the ballpark. And just that little seed of doubt in my mind is like, did Yuri just have a really lucky spell mixed in with some really nice stuff? Absolutely. But we haven't really seen that much of Yuri for a sustained period at the big league level, to be honest with you. And so I think the Marlins themselves should maybe hold some doubt in that too. We'll see. But I think they should get back around the table. Think about it with Yuri. I think his profile is the right profile to extend. And I think maybe, he's got some doubts too. So maybe a good time to pull that trigger on. We'll see.
It's going to be interesting. It's always going to be a fun roller coaster ride with this Marlins team. It's unlike any other. If you're a Marlins fan, it just keeps going. There's not a dull day with this organization. But as we wrap it up, Peter, I just want to say thank you once again for coming on the show. You're an absolute legend, my friend. And I try to live up to the greatness you did while hosting this podcast.
You're smashing it, mate. Thanks so much for having me back. And listen, I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be talking about a winning baseball team, which, that's the perfect time to be hosting this show. Everyone's going to be hopping on the bandwagon left, right, and center. I already see it on Twitter. Everyone's like loving the Marlins now. Everyone will be on the pod. Everyone's cheering on, mate. So well done and congrats to you for delivering a world-class show.
That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Marlins, guys. As always, share the podcast with your friends. And for your second listen of the day, go check out the new Locked On MLB Game Night every day out there on YouTube. It's on the Locked On MLB channel. And until next time, for Jeremiah Geiger and the great UK GOAT Peter Pratt, he'll be back on the show another time. Stay safe, stay locked on, and let's go fish.